Every year there are fatalities on the slopes of Mount Rainier. I read a tragic article just the other day about a climber falling to their death from disappointment cleaver. There are so many variables when climbing that you can't control, which makes it all the more important to be in absolute control of those that you do. The average success rate for summiting the mountain is less than 50% on unguided climbs. Last year, my own first attempt ended in failure. This year, however, I succeeded, and I'll share with you 3 tips that I feel made all the difference.
Are we there yet?
It is June 20th, 2022, and my brother Matt and I are here on the slopes of Mount Rainier. We tried it last year, made a video about it, didn't make it all the way. This year is going to be different. We're supposed to have great weather, but there is a lot of avalanche danger this year. So that's the one variable that we can't control.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, go. 1, 0, and liftoff.
The first tip I would offer to summit Mount Rainier successfully is time management. Time is critical in just about every facet of the climb, from the time of year you select to the time you start hiking. There should be no doubt about the time you start your climb. Last year we started way too late. Don't do this. The Muir snowfield can be insanely brutal and taxing. No matter how good of shape you're in, just start early. We were at the permit office as soon as it opened this year at 7:30.
All right, there we go. Making it up.
This year we thought long and hard about how many days we should make the trip. Last year we only planned one night, and if we had planned for a second, we likely would have summited. This year we planned for 2 nights, to give ourselves a small weather window, as well as to have a full day of rest before a summit push. Some people don't need this, but think about it. You came all this way, why not enjoy more time being on the mountain? Lastly, your summit bid time is an aspect over which you have complete control as an unguided team. Will you start out at midnight, 11 p.m., maybe even earlier? Your summit bid has to be carefully calculated given the skill of your team, your physical fitness level, and what camp you're setting out from. I'll talk more about what time we chose and why later.
All right, I actually don't know where we are. We're on Mount Rainier, that's where we are. But we can see Camp Muir just up here behind us. And yeah, we feel good, doing good, beautiful weather. So, a lot better than last year. Last year was horrible. We were going up through this whole thing in a snowstorm last year. It was miserable.
Although you can choose when you go, there's no way you can predict the weather for your selected permit dates. Last year we attempted to summit in June, and there was so much snow that nobody, not even guided teams, had summited in several weeks. We were unfortunately too early. Only a week later, however, and there was a huge heat wave, and the mountain saw massive melting, which complicated climbing and opened large crevasses. When picking a permit date, unfortunately, you're sometimes just shooting in the dark. Just know that the later you go, the more the mountain will usually be melted.
There's Camp Muir. We're getting there. Super, super slushy snow here on the Muir snowfield. Not very fun, honestly. Ugh, it's so bright out. Anyway, let's keep going. All right, we have arrived at Camp Muir. I'm sitting next to the barrels of human waste because I feel like human waste right now. It was a very hard slog up the Muir snowfield. I don't think I ate enough, definitely. I was super worn out. But now, we gotta find a place for our tent and then dinner. All right, let's do it. All right, tent set up. Now for food. Looks good. All right, it's bedtime. It's getting cold out here. The plan is not to go up tomorrow. So we are staying a full day at Camp Muir. And then Wednesday, we are going to try and summit. But now it's time to get warm and get some sleep. Good night. Beautiful day, super clear. We just saw some people on the high mountain from way down here. I'm guessing that they summited, so that's a good omen. Hopefully that means there'll be a clear trail for us tomorrow.
The next tip I would give to achieve success in summiting Mount Rainier is training. Mountaineering is not a sport you can just casually put on overnight. I won't belabor this point, but here are a few things that made a difference for me this year. When I say training, I don't just mean getting in physical shape, though you definitely need to do that too. I'm referring to getting educated. This means doing your homework. The National Park Service has a guide for most of the major routes up Mount Rainier. Read the guide for the route you plan on taking and understand the risks. Talk to people who have done it. Listen to the rangers when you pick up your permit and pay attention to current conditions. In addition to being more knowledgeable, I got more experience in training this year with my gear. You absolutely have to have the right gear to keep you safe, and knowing how to use it is critical. Getting Gearsmart drastically increased my confidence this year, that if necessary, I could perform a rescue or get out of a tight spot. I'll admit that I still don't consider myself an expert, but increased training gave me much more confidence when we took a route this time that was much more technically demanding. Rainier should not be the first mountain you've ever climbed. Practice and know your knots, as well as glacial travel and crevasse rescue techniques. You shouldn't be figuring things out when you get there.
All right, it's about maybe 2 in the afternoon, and I am just preparing my pack for tonight, because tonight is when we set off for the summit. We're thinking we're gonna leave probably around 10 or 10:30. The goal is to be up at Ingram Flats around 11, maybe 11:30, because usually groups will start at either 11 or at 12. Our hope is to follow up a group that's going up there, just so that they blaze the trail for us. Part of the reason that we turned around last year was because we went up and all of the guide groups turned around. So no one had summited for several weeks, and we would have had to find our own route up through the glaciers, and we weren't comfortable doing that with our skill level. So anyway, we have word that people have summited today. So that is very encouraging, very exciting. Preparing the pack, getting ready, getting all this gear, and then it's just hanging out until the evening.
What makes travel or an adventure special? Is it the place? Is it the food or the experience? Ask anyone and they'll tell you that it's the people that make a trip special. Nowhere could this be more pertinent than in the extreme sport of mountaineering. Your team is not only a source of camaraderie and motivation, but sometimes literally all that stands between you and death's icy grasp. I'm not being overdramatic either. My final tip for summit success is choosing the right team.
It's about 10:40-ish. We're headed out.
We'd originally planned this year for a 3 or 4 man team. Yet this year, for various reasons, our original plans fell apart, and Matt and I found our team shrink to just the 2 of us.
All right, here we are, doing good. We're over on Ingram Glacier. You can't really see it very good, but there's some crazy crevasses. So we're making good time. Matt's actually setting a great pace for us. And it looks like most of the teams, we see a bunch of teams in front of us. Looks like most of them are going on Ingram direct instead of the Cleaver. So we're gonna follow them. All right, we're gonna get a snack and get back on the road.
This route snakes through the large crevasses of the Ingram Glacier and then goes straight up the mountain, literally a stairway of snow. I did not record much as we made our way up the mountain that night. To be honest, I was hyper-focused on our safety. Halfway up the Ingram Glacier, a strong wind began blowing directly down the mountain into our faces. It made the climb utterly miserable. There were moments when I felt like giving up. This was not fun. I continued to push forward, however, not wanting to disappoint Matt and end our climb because of discomfort. For Matt, this was a goal he had wanted to achieve for several years. It's hard to ignore Mount Rainier when you live in the area. A clear day reveals it rising ominously on the horizon. Matt's sense of adventure is something we've shared since we were both very young. In fact, every year we've tried to do a brother's trip. You've seen some of them on this channel. His drive to summit had pushed him to train and prepare, only to be disappointed last year when we had to make the hard decision to turn around early. This year, however, was going to be different. We had planned and meticulously managed our time, calculating what we felt was the most opportune window. We had trained, gaining more and more confidence with our gear and our abilities, and now it was up to our team to finish the task. 2 men in the pitch black tethered together, reaching for an unseen goal somewhere 14,000 feet above us in the night sky. As the day dawned, we found ourselves on the upper mountain. The wind did not abate, and there was a lot of ice, making every step super critical as we planted our crampons and axes. Matt and I took turns leading, one calculated step after the other. Our team was small but strong. Both of us were working as one, willing each other up higher and higher. And that's when we saw it, the crater.
In the crater! Look at this thing. Woohoo! We made it! Oh, the last few hours were torture. Literally the worst thing I've ever done. Oh, the wind was so bad.
The wind at the summit was absolutely brutal and unrelenting. It was honestly hard to enjoy our success because of how it cut straight through us. We walked around the crater for a bit to see it from different angles. It felt almost like we were on the surface of another planet. After a brief snack, we headed to the true summit, Columbia Crest. As we approached the top, I thought to myself, why do people climb mountains? Is it because they need to prove something to themselves or to others? Is it because it's there, as is so often quoted from George Mallory? Or is it something else? For me, climbing mountains isn't so much about the summit as it is the journey to get there. The time and preparation, the training and learning, and of course, my team. The people that I share the memories with. Memories of success won through adversity. I unfortunately couldn't see my camera at all with the wind blowing up there and the bright sun, so this is all I captured of our actual summit moment. I accidentally left the camera hanging from my hip and then turned it off instead of on to capture that moment. We stayed at the very top for all of 2 seconds before turning around to get out of the gale. A few weeks later, after the adventure was over and my sore legs recovered, I got a small package in the mail from Matt.
An epic memory deserves an epic trophy. Thanks for sharing this goal with me.
Yep, the best part of an adventure is the people you share it with.